north of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'd say we're coming out cold. We're going to skip the entrance music. We got a lot going on today.
We sure do.
So let's get right into it.
We got everything going on. We got scheduling confusion. We got master plan folks coming in. We've got myself. I want to introduce a couple of folks that I brought with me today to kind of introduce and talk with. I have Nadine Signoni, the Assistant CAO for the town of Southwick, and Jessica Bishop, our Deputy Fire Chief.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Great, thanks.
Beautiful day today.
It sure is.
It's an outside day. We should be outside today.
Well, with all the scheduling confusion, we're going to be out faster than we thought, right? We got half an hour to get this done. So I'm looking forward to this, though, because Nadine's new to the town, relatively, right? How long have you been with us now?
Almost 5 months.
5 months.
Woo.
But it's the first time we've had an assistant CAO, and first newly created position, and you were the best candidate for the job, and you're learning as we go along here. And so why don't you give us a little background about yourself?
I am a Westfield native. I graduated from Westfield High. I made a short trip to Colorado for about 27 years. Moved back to Westfield about 5 years ago and have been looking for this job for a while, I think. My background is, I have a legal background, but the last 8 to 10 years I've been transitioning into HR and office management. What else do you want to know?
Did you just pass some huge test this past week? Didn't you give me a copy to hang on my wall?
I did. One of my, I had to pass a public service HR class, which I did on Monday. Happy Juneteenth to everyone, and that's what I was doing. Taking a test, I passed. I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's great.
And Doug, you can hang that certificate on your wall.
It's on my fridge at home.
Right next to Rebecca's 4.0.
That's correct. Reserved spot for that someday.
Yeah.
So what are you going to be doing in the town? What does your job entail?
My job entails, my first goal is to bring HR into a central location, which would be my office. So right now, HR, because there wasn't a position for an HR person until I joined the team, HR has been spread out through different departments, and I would like to have a central location for onboarding, benefits, workers' comp, unemployment, so I'm working on bringing all of the components of HR to one location for everyone. I mean, it's the way it should be done. It gives, everyone knows where to go instead of trying to figure out who to ask this question or how do I do that. So I'm still learning. It's a learning curve, and everyone's helping me transition certain pieces to my office, so that's great. It's a work in progress, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
How many employees does the town of Southwick have?
That's a good question. I don't, with all the per diems and the seasonal workers and the regular workers, I don't want to even, I don't know that. Doug, do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Me
That's why
neither.
I asked you. How about full-timers? Do you have an idea?
I think in 70, 80. Yeah.
So it actually is a really decent-sized organization when you boil it down, right? 70 employees, plus seasonal, plus part-timers, plus.
Correct. Plus,
right?
plus. There's a lot of pluses. I'm trying to actually, even get all the files organized and into seasonal and full-time and different sections. So even that's a task.
Sure. And it's a widely varied workforce, right? You've
is.
got, I mean, you have
I have
firefighters, you have police officers, so their schedules are zany, right, to just try to keep track and how all that works and everything else. And then you've got union, non-union.
PW,
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
all the town hall employees.
And all the
That's a-
rules, under the contracts and for everything, it's
Sure.
It's a handful.
It has been my first experience with collective bargaining, so that's new to me, and it's interesting. I'm happy to learn, and I think that ties in nicely with my legal background. I have some, connection there, but so there is so much that is new to me, put it that way. But I'm very eager to learn, and I'm happy to be here.
I can say as a department head, our conversation yesterday regarding you doing the onboarding made me smile for the rest of my day. So it's a huge step in the right direction for us to have the HR portion of things kind of tightened up for town. I think people do have kind of a misconception of, oh, it's just a small town.
Yep.
How hard could it be?
Right.
But there's a lot of moving parts, and for years, I think we've done it kind of on a skeleton crew. And we're seeing the need now for the importance of positions like Nadine's, and we found the right person, so that's even better.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
there's lots of research that says onboarding is key for retention. So
No doubt.
Lot,
Got to have a
lots
good
of
experience
research.
coming in. It's,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
it's setting the tone.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It absolutely sets the tone,
Yep.
and
That's the task that I would like to tackle first. Now that my test is done, I don't have to study anymore. I got a little bit more time to devote to developing a stellar onboarding procedure.
I
Right.
like it.
And I think, your onboarding process at the town was a little interesting, right? As far as what was ready for you on your first day and what wasn't ready. And it kind of set the tone for kind of, where we needed to improve and where we could get better. And
Yeah.
great, you're in charge of it. So you get to figure, you get to set the tone from there, right? So, what do you need? Like a desk and a chair. That's always a good thing,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
I did tell her yesterday that I was put some pictures on the wall now. She said she's waiting for the completion of the setup of her office before she permanently puts something on the walls.
I will put things on the wall. I will, and I'll invite you both to see what it looks like.
Okay. Celebratory picture hanging.
That's right.
so Deputy Chief,
Sir.
I've been trying to get you on the show with me for a while. I was mad when Joe did it first, but it was I love Joe. Just kidding.
too.
But I think it's kind of a coming home for you, and it's a first as far as I know for the town of Southwick as well. And why don't you reintroduce yourself?
Jessica Bishop, born and raised in Southwick, second generation public service. My father was on the police force for approximately 36 years, retired as the police chief 2 years ago. I tried to leave one time. I made it out for like 8 years. Then I came back home, and this is my third career out of like grown-up careers, and I wish I had known what I wanted to do when I grew up earlier in life, but I joined the fire department in 2011 as a volunteer, and then it just kind of snowballed into becoming the best job I've ever had. And I have that kind of personality that once I learn something, I have to learn the next thing, and then it's I learn that, I gotta learn the next thing. And it kind of propelled me to keep moving forward. When the position for the deputy chief opened, although I was currently at the time working at another department, the idea of coming home just made me so happy that kind of worked my little tail off and tried to catch up. COVID was very disruptive of, you kind of set yourself a schedule to get some stuff done for educational purposes and certification purposes, but I busted my tail and caught up where I could, and luckily it's great competition for the position, and I was picked. and I'm 9 months in. I do like to say every day is a surprise, because there's never a lack of learning on your daily job. It's so much different when you take your boots off the street and sit behind the desk for some time. It's eye-opening. It gives you a whole new respect for people like Nadine. Not that I ever had disrespect for you, but more respect for kind of the governmental side of the whole way the town runs. It's really fascinating.
And I have the utmost respect for what our public safety folks do. And, you know, watching this whole thing through COVID, I had the chief on when he was first on as well, and we were just coming out of COVID at the time, and it was still like a whirlwind. We were like thinking, oh, that was yesterday. No, that was 2 years ago. And, you know, time kind of stood still, yet moved so fast during that period of time. But, you know, I was fortunate to be on the panel when you were interviewing for deputy chief. I think it's one of the better decisions that I've made.
I hope I don't prove you wrong.
Well, I'm just setting the bar kind of high for you
okay,
there,
no
Deb.
pressure. I
But
got that.
yeah, no, the fire department has come such a long way in a short period of time, relatively speaking. We were just talking the other day at the firehouse with I was there after the Ironman, and we were just, you know, talking, and we're like, you know, 8 years ago this place was empty, or 9 years ago this place was literally empty. We had 1 or 2 employees, and, you know, the tones went off, and guys got out of bed and came down and grabbed the ambulance or grabbed an apparatus to go to something. And now we're 24/7. We're full-time paramedic ALS service. You know, you were the first medic, I believe, with us. Card-carrying medic. Before
Chris
you
Brown,
left.
Adam Hart, but they also left to use their medic at other departments. We don't. It is no easy task what Chief Stefanowitz and Chief Anderson accomplished. Like,
Amen.
Having that have been done prior to my arrival was like, oh, I could probably do anything now. If they got that done, I can do anything. That this state of Massachusetts makes nothing easy, and they put in. I couldn't even venture to guess how many hours between the two of them, a consultant we use, Matt Wolkenbright. It's a huge team effort to get to the ALS level. And then retrospectively, like you said, we went from no employees to 1 employee to 2 to 4. And then COVID included, we went from 4 to currently 11, even though it's spread out a little with the chief, the deputy, having Brian in a fire prevention full-time role, and now having the approval. We'll have 9 on the floor. That's wildly rapid growth. But we're on pace right now to blow our highest number out of the water. It's insane.
Correct.
And it's across the board. It's in every town, everywhere. Calls are way up. You know, we had a lull with COVID. Things kind of calmed down in their own kind of way. But ramped right back up. Now we're facing people that spent 2 years not going to seek medical care.
Right.
And they were already sick, and now they're sicker. So we have our hands full, for sure.
And a lot of calls that were covered by other towns, or, you know, if it was an elevated call, because we were not ALS, now we're ALS, and now we're ALS, so we're covering other calls. Mutual aid to Agawam, mutual aid to Granville. That's keeping us busy.
We are doing the ALS service for Granville as the primary ALS service. Great to work with. Chief Ripley up there, also leaps and bounds. And it's funny because every time I talk to him, I say, Chief, I feel like you were us, 10, 12 years ago. But he's doing stuff up there that I never imagined that they would get done. They redid their station. They're hiring positions to be in the station to respond. They're doing a fantastic job. They're great to work with.
And it's no different, whether you live in Springfield or you're in Southwick or you keep going west, you're in Granville. You get sick, you need somebody fast.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change just because you live in, a little outside of a city, right? You still need that kind of response. And, our population in Southwick is aging.
They are.
I don't know if a nicer way to put it, right?
It's
But
the-
we're a
the
graying
statistics don't
community, as it
lie.
was called, right? And so that's just going to bring with it, all the benefits and all of the side effects, right? Where the ambulance calls go up and the need for that service. And, we've talked about offline about other initiatives as far as, how the fire department can interact with that population with, in a medical situation, or even, the interface that the fire department has had with the senior center and working with seniors and, with, sign identifications. And we've talked about, mobile, there's talk of more mobile health care and
Mobile
stuff like that.
integrated health.
Yep.
It's a fascinating subsection that is on the table. Again, there is a lot to dig through. It's idealistic, and there's a lot of brilliant science to say if we can be at home preventative, how much better we would be throughout the entire healthcare system. But there's a lot of laws and regulations
Sure.
that are into it, and it's a very gummed up area. So there are some places out east that have accomplished, having mobile integrated health. We have a few things working in our area that are getting there. It's working. Our medical control, we use Bay State Health, and they are actually putting a mobile doctor unit on the road. So there are medical control. We essentially work hand in hand with them. They give us permission to operate, and now their doctors will be able to come out in a fly car and come to calls, hang out in town.
That's great.
It's pretty cool. So we're looking forward to getting an opportunity to have them. They also added an EMS fellow, so hasn't been done in a while. I don't know if ever at Bay State, but their sole purpose will be to integrate the hospitals with EMS. It's great stuff.
Awesome.
We used to be the redheaded stepchild. I think we might be moving up.
And we were just talking yesterday, we were at a meeting together, and we were talking about, that people are actually coming to Southwick, applying, they want to work for our department. It's a growing department. We've got good equipment, we've got a beautiful station.
Equipment.
It's a good place to work. And I think that's exciting for the people of the town to know what professionals they have.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they meet you guys like on their worst day, right? It's nice when they come to the open houses and all this stuff, but they tend to meet you on their worst day or,
It is-
among their worst days. But, it's very reassuring to know the quality of staff and quality of care that can be delivered right in town. And I think it's hugely important. And it was a huge, it was an initiative from the select board for the last, 5+ years
Yep.
to upgrade this service to ALS. And it was a huge commitment by the people of the town of Southwick to commit. When you vote the budget, you're committing to that agenda. And we were very upfront that this was going to be a long slog to get there. And it was going to be an expensive slog to get there. But the end result's going to be worth it. And, the results are starting to show now, and they really are. Look at this. You mentioned the number of staff that are on board, and we're hiring medics as we need to continue to flesh out the service. You've got an ambulance coming too.
We do. That's you're at the mercy of every part and piece that has to be added or delivered or. So it's in build. It's
Yep.
in build. It's close.
So that'll
We
give us
did
our
just get
second-
a new pickup truck.
Yeah, I saw that. It's beautiful.
2 years ago we ordered it.
Yeah,
but it
I know. I
came.
saw it yesterday.
It's a great truck. It's a gorgeous Chevy 2500. So multi-purpose. It's actually designated as FP1. So Brian can move his equipment around while he's doing all of his inspections. But it's also a great people mover. We keep basic medical equipment in it. It's just a great all-around utility truck. Very needed and helpful to replace some of our older stuff. It's a beautiful truck, though.
And you have my word, we're working on that air conditioning for you, I swear. It'll get fixed. But, as far as the rest of the equipment, I think it's going to be, we're at a great place, right? A lot of the equipment's new or newish.
Yeah,
And,
we're in a great place.
state of the art.
I've said it in the past, and I know that I couldn't say it enough, that between Chief Anderson and Chief Stefanowitz, Their brain power for their grant writing and I couldn't even tell you offhand what the total number that Chief Anderson achieved, but I'd probably be undershooting it if I said he got us easily $250,000 of grant money in his tenure.
Oh, certainly.
I'm sure it's an undershot.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it is because he's brilliant in
Correct.
his grant writing, and you know those two kind of set forth a view and a picture of where they wanted the department to go. It's something that I subscribe to wholeheartedly. So the chief and I have an opportunity to work really closely together to keep kind of pushing forward on that long view. And it some days you feel very accomplished, and then I have a whiteboard and I look at the whiteboard and I'm like, oh God, I haven't crossed a single thing off. But I know I did something. Yeah. But
That's a recurring theme everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days you go, and I didn't do a thing today, but I never sat down once,
Yeah.
you know? And I knocked nothing off that list,
Yeah.
but now there's 4 more things on there. But you did 12 things that you never even made it
Yeah,
to the
I did.
whiteboard. So that's a good day. And Nadine, I think, we were talking about this, or I don't know if we talked specifically about it, but, people ask, and I think this is part for any organization, fire department, town hall, doesn't matter. People ask you if you had a good day. 4 out of 5 times when you get home, someone says, hey, how was your day? 4 out of 5 days, you should say, at least good. Some days great, some days, but at least good. And on the 5th day, ask me tomorrow. And I think we're at that kind of point. I know we're there with the fire department. I know we're there with the police department. I know we're there with a lot of folks in town hall. They like their job. I talk to a lot of folks there. They like what they're doing. The service we're providing to the people of Southwick, because that's really what it's all about, I think, is the proofs in the pudding. And, you see it, we had the open house at the police and fire station on a terrifically horrible day weather-wise, right?
it was a perfect day.
Pouring,
I'm telling you,
and
couldn't have been a better day.
but several hundred people showed up
Yeah.
for pancakes, and they didn't come for the pancakes, right? They came to see our folks and see what we do, and there was a lot of thank yous out there that day too, which was, I think, hugely appreciated. And it goes to speak to what we're all doing as far as trying to make things better for the folks in town, and that's really what it's all about. And Nadine, you were all nervous about this. We went to 25 minutes already. We have 5 minutes to go. You're doing great.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Got your timer set on your watch?
But, I know Jason's coming up next in a couple of minutes because he's got some folks coming in. And so what are your plans for the next year in Town Hall?
Wow. The next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for 5. I just asked for 1. Figure
Well, I do need to start a procurement certification. I don't think that'll be done in the next year, but I need to start that. I'm going to be the chief procurement officer once I get that done. And just really continue to, I just want to learn everything there is to learn, and the best way to do it to help the town and the citizens of the town. So however that plays out, whatever I need to do. I really enjoy the interaction with the public, and there's so many different opportunities for me to learn and grow, so I'm just going to embrace all of those and take the best pieces and formulate an office that is welcoming and informative for everybody.
Sounds like an excellent plan.
Agreed.
Thanks.
How about you? What do you got coming up this year?
We have a very large project that's a requirement by Medicare that I'm working on. I got my manual the other day. It was 168 pages. So that's going to take me some time. But goals for the year, I'd say keep working on our culture change. We're in such a good spot. I have a great staff, phenomenal. We are really built up to that place where, I'd say I get a 5 out of 5 good days when I get home. I really do. But
That's awesome.
Not the whole day isn't always perfect, but the majority of the day is good. Chief and I had a long-standing joke about 0 days without disaster, and it was funny. Like a week went by, and I was like, I think it's been 5 days. And he's like, what? Then the next day the world blew up. It was
Yeah,
fun.
it was kind of a rocky start there. Just with,
Yeah.
you know, and
Just a little wild.
everybody goes through it, right? It doesn't matter what your occupation is.
Yeah.
You guys more particular than others, but you know, it was interesting. But you know what, the thing that I really, as a select board member, it's a hard habit to break. I still want to say selectman every time, but as a select board member is, and I was talking to one of the officers last night on my way out of town hall. I still know almost everybody at the fire department by name, and I know most of their spouses' names, and I know most of their kids' names. We're still small enough that we do know that. We're getting a little bit bigger. It's getting a little harder to keep all the players straight, but it's enjoyable from that perspective. And a lot of the people in town, they know every officer. They know Ernie. They know Mikey Bridges. They know, Officer Bridges, actually, Mikey. You know, they know Deputy Chief Bishop. And some of the people have known Jessica Bishop since she played floor hockey at the rec center, right? And you're going to get that experience too the longer, you stick around and to get to meet a lot of people. And, it's still a small enough circle in town hall to know and interact with everybody all the time and know everybody. It's not some huge monolithic organization where you don't know everybody. You walk by and go, like, I work here? I don't know, right? Or you got to wear badges so you know who's who. So Southwick's still great, and it's getting better. It really is.
We do
It
have
really
a,
is.
from past experiences in other towns and other places, you can go spend time there and work there or move there, right? And you never get accepted into that like hometown feel. And I think that Southwick is the almost polar opposite of that. And I hope that you experienced it already. And if you haven't, I'm sure that you will. So we hire guys that aren't from town. They come into the fire department and we bring them in and say, like, all right, hey, this is your town. And the expectation is that you're trusted to go into people's homes, that you're trusted to, and I tell you, the people in Southwick are good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying there's perfection, but really they are the kindest people. They really are. It's such a change from other towns that I've seen, that I've been a part of, that others have said, that they came from, a completely separate town. They came here and they're like, oh, it's such a close-knit town. I'll never feel comfortable. 365 days in, they feel like their old home, It's one of the charms of Southwick, I think, that we've always been pretty good at that.
All right, last thing before we move on, because I see the other crew's getting ready to come in, and we're headed to a break. It's right about 8:30. And I thought about this a lot, and I didn't know how to ask the question, so I'm going to kind of walk around it and then come to it. It's not a trick question.
Okay.
But when we interviewed for this position for the deputy chief, we hired the best person for that job. No doubt in my mind, no question about it. So that's the end of the disclaimer.
Okay.
To my knowledge, you're the first female command staff in public safety in the town of Southwick that I can recall.
In a career role.
In a career role.
Yes, we have had call and volunteer officers in the fire
Correct.
department.
But in a career role.
Yep.
And so I didn't know how to work around the question because I don't think it had anything to do with you getting a job here. It's completely on your record. And I used to joke, and I'll tie this together, I promise, with former Chief Anderson. Just the timing of him coming back and applying for the chief's job, I had actually never met Chief Anderson. And I was on the search committee for the fire chief. I did not know that the man was a legend coming into that thing because he had left to take another role in another town. And I told him afterwards, after we decided to hire him, I said, the next time we do this, we should just do it as candidate A, candidate B, candidate C. Because here we did a nationwide search for a fire chief, and we ended up hiring the fire chief's brother, but the man was just a fantastic chief. And in your case, same diff, right? If we had done this with candidate 1, 2, 3, and had the blurry box when we did the interview and the voice scrambler, wouldn't have made a difference. But I think it's a huge deal for the town, and I think it's a huge achievement. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it and what, what you think about it at all, if you think about it at all, or if you've thought about it, one bit.
I could sum it up pretty quickly. I believe that this town has always, literally always, been so far ahead of any scales that currently exist in our surroundings, in the whole country. Southwick's first hire for a career person in the fire department was a female. And there was never an issue. This was the build, right? This was the best person for the job. That's who got the job. And I think that this town has always been so far ahead on that. I personally I would always like to think that it was on my merit regardless of anything else. And it's funny because some people will come up to me and say, like, yeah, girl, and I'm like, I have a hard time with that. I'm like, oh, thank you. I don't know. But I think it speaks volumes to the town that they were always ahead of that curve. Always. They never brought any of those things into play. Ever. There has never, to my knowledge, been a position where, they didn't just, at least to their effect, pick the best person for the job, regardless. Yeah.
Perfect. Peter?
Going to the break.
Have a great
Support
one.
for the community programming of WSKB is provided by
guys
the
rock.
Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
We ready, Pete? Yes, no?
Yep, you're up.
All right. So, we had an interesting little conundrum this morning. There's a miscommunication, so now you get Doug and me this today.
Yeah, sounds like a tag team.
Yeah,
So you're tagging in.
That we are. So, with me today, we have Dave McWilliams, Marcus Phelps, and Marissa Cook-Obregon. And they are members of the Master Plan Committee. Dave is chair of CONCOM.
Yeah.
Marissa is AgCom. Are you chair?
No.
No? Okay. I couldn't remember.
She's
And
very
Marcus
important
is
over
now, what do we call you now, Marcus?
Planner emeritus.
Okay.
I've stepped down from the planning board.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where we are. I brought them in here tonight to talk about the master plan that's been going on. We're getting closer and closer to the end of it. I'm sure some people are happy about that. But it's been very interesting, especially this, I'm now 1 year in. I've seen a lot more. I've been to several of the master plan committee meetings and kind of right in line with what I wanted to see with the town, So tell us what you guys have been up to.
Okay, so I'll just start out with an overview. I guess we have a 17-member committee.
Easy to get a quorum that way. No?
Oh, sure. Well, we have been very fortunate. I'll tell you, last meeting we had 16 out of the 17 members there. Plus we have 2 student members who don't vote, but they participated. So it's been great. The committee started up in November of 2021. So we've been at it for a while, and we've done a lot outreach to the public. We had a public survey, great response. We had 900 submissions of that questionnaire, completed the questionnaire. We had 4 public engagement workshops, one of which we just held last Saturday. Marissa may want to say something about that on the 17th. We had it at the Brass Rail. I don't know. You want to say good turnout, I think.
Oh, excellent turnout. The best we've had so far for any of our events since we started this committee. And the great thing about it as well was that it was very mixed in terms of ages, which is something that we were trying to achieve, just trying to connect with the younger demographics, seeing that our master plan is projecting out into the future. And 20 years from now, people who may be in their teenage years or their 20s or 30s will be very much in their prime. So they're stakeholders in that future, and hearing from them is as important as hearing from folks who are in decision-making positions. So we had a great workshop at the Brass Rail. We had a children's table, so we even got to hear from a much younger demographic.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was interesting.
Disappointed I couldn't make that one.
It was great. So I think we were very happy with the results, and we'll be collating that data and then publishing it to our website and sharing it with our consultant, and hopefully that will channel into our final plan.
One thing that's great about the public workshops is the one-on-one conversations that you're having with people. Because I think a lot of the conversations I had, people are still thinking about the here and now and what can we do to fix the here and now. And if you're just doing a survey, you don't have that interaction. So now you're trying to coach them to think, no, okay, what's going on now
Long-term,
is important, but we're not here to talk about now. We're here to talk about the steps we're going to take for the next 20 years. So take off your now hat and put on your future hat. And maybe this doesn't pertain to you, but think about your kids or your grandkids and what you want them to experience in Southwick in 2040 and beyond. So the workshops are great for that information you're going to capture that you're never going to get through a survey.
So Marcus, one of the things that's come up several times is, when was the last time they tried to do this? 97?
Yes.
Why did it not, why do you think it didn't pass, people didn't want to do it then?
Well, I think part of it was the consultant that was involved with facilitating the plan. They had some ideas or thoughts that didn't really mesh with the public. And so
Isn't the consultant there
yeah.
just kind of bring the information together and put together what the people want, or?
Well, they
That's
had some proposals. I guess
gotcha.
you'd say that weren't.
They wanted to
set
get
too
involved in the
well.
mix?
They didn't set too well, but I think this time around, with the size of the advisory committee and the amount of outreach, besides the survey and the workshops, we held 8 focus group meetings, which were subject matter orientated. So we looked at housing, we looked at transportation, we looked at open space and recreation and that sort of thing. So we had smaller group, probably, I don't know, up to 10 people, and had discussions around those specific areas which relate to the chapters of the plan. So we got that information in. And right now, we've divided the committee into teams. So we have 2-person teams, and each team is working on a chapter of the plan.
And this is your chapters right here?
Yes, yep. We have, of course, certain requirements from the state as to what should be in a master plan. So we've been working around that format. And the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has been facilitating the planning process. They provided some of the base data and helped us with the workshops and so forth. But we'll have a chapter on land use, chapter on housing, economic development, cultural and historic resources, natural resources, open space and recreation, that's a long one, transportation, public facilities and services, climate adaptation and sustainability. And then we have an opening chapter, which is our vision and goals, and sort of a closing chapter as to where we go with implementing the plan.
So just
yeah.
to give you where we are in the process, right? I think we've concluded all the public outreach and the input side of it, right? And now really it's putting together the document to present to the planning board, which is where we are right now. We've got draft versions of all of the chapters. And as Marcus was saying, teams are put together to work on specific chapters. So for instance, Marissa and I are working on the natural resources and open space chapter. We'll conclude that and submit it. And again, it goes to the planning board to be reviewed and approved, but we're putting it together now. All right, so we're at the end of information gathering.
Yep. So what are some of the primary, the most, I guess, the biggest things that people wanted? Where was your percentages? What did you see as the hot topics, for lack of a better term?
I think some of the information we got in, people are comfortable with the town as it is now, pretty much.
Yep, I have heard that.
They enjoy it. We went back and forth as a suburban community, as a rural community, so it's a semi-rural community, which is sort of an awkward word, but, you know, we're in that position geographically in the suburbs of Springfield, obviously.
Yep.
So we do have an aging population. Many of the folks who responded to the survey were over 50 years old, and that's a concern as far as how is our tax base going to go into the future. We rely heavily on residential real estate tax base to support all the good things that we have in town. So, you know, it's a challenge. Someone needs to step forward, I guess, and propose some new things. People don't want to see heavy industry. They are open to light industry and definitely various businesses. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas about what has come out. I think farming, right?
Right.
Supportive
farming,
of farming.
For sure. Yes.
We are that right to farm community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think over the last 2 years, with the things that have come to our town's attention, the possibilities, and I'm referring to Carvana in terms of people.
You're not supposed to say that word.
It happened. But I think it was a really good opportunity for people to understand.
It was an eye-opener.
It's an eye-opener. People woke up and people understood that the reason why that was on the table is for the same reason that Marcus just pointed to, that we need to have a strong tax base. However, is that the best way to go about it? And then the results that we saw in the survey, I think, really did point to the fact that people do see us as this mixed community in terms of suburban and rural. There are parts of Southwick that are rural, yes. Other parts are more suburban. And something that I heard, again, through the survey, but also on Saturday night at our event, is that people recognize that the downtown area of Southwick has a certain density, and there's potential within that density to develop it in a certain way. So the footprint doesn't necessarily need to change. It's just that within that footprint, what can we do? And I think people are really open to innovative ideas and want to see businesses thrive in town if that means creating a balance. And I think balance is the key word here. People have said that a lot. So
I said that a lot during my campaign.
Yes, it sounds familiar, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of potential there. And like Marcus says, hopefully once these results become more public, the master plan becomes public as well, hopefully it'll entice folks to step up and potentially build those businesses in this downtown area. I think the residents would support that.
So you keep saying downtown, right? And
yes.
what I heard
Yes.
a lot was...
I knew you were going to say that. That was my next. I was going to jump
Here's
in
the
there.
question.
Where is our downtown?
Where's our downtown?
We
right?
are, yeah.
And I heard that a lot on Saturday night, and I've heard it at some of the other meetings that we've been part of. Where is downtown? And I think it's really hard to identify because, you know, unlike a lot of other New England towns, we don't have a green,
center, yeah.
right?
Yep.
And that was one of the questions that was asked Saturday night was, you know, what do you think about a town green? Is that something that's important to you to help identify where the gathering place is for Southwick? And a lot of respondents said, yeah, that's kind of important. But I think the overall sense is, where is our identity? Right? When you come into Southwick, when do you all of a sudden get the aha moment, hey, I'm in Southwick? Is it from a sign that you read on your way through, or is it from a group of landmarks that say, now I know where I am?
This is true. I mean, you come to the end of the first part of 57 and you got the old Anson's nursery, and you know, I heard the same thing, and I've paid attention to what it's been saying online, and keep an eye on social media, and that topic has come up. Where is downtown? Where is our town center? You know, the Civic Fund has done an awesome job with the War Memorial area, and that's usually where your center is, where your memorials are there. So it's kind of odd because in the way 57 runs, it's here and then it's over here. So where do you put the center?
Right.
I think that's a challenge for the communities that are located along College Highway. There's sort of that strip
Agawam
tendency to go to a
does have a
strip,
kind of strange
strip
setup too.
approach to how things are developed without parallel roads, you know, off to the side of College Highway. It's pretty much that corridor. So we did hear some thoughts, some ideas about design. The planning board has design guidelines for a section from Town Hall on the south to Tannery Road on the north. So there's kind of, you know, that area that would be considered downtown.
Your
you know.
retail
Yeah.
or economic corridor, I guess.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you said too. We don't have any branches off that retail corridor. You've got, I guess you could say, sheep pasture, Point Grove area. That's down by the lakes. That's probably your, you know, one of the things I've been doing since I've been a select board member is I've been talking a lot with John Goddard and seeing where are we going, what do we have, you know, with the town meeting votes as far as the cannabis being approved, and we've still got other steps to take. Where do we put that? Because, you know, we're limited in certain areas with that. That's the one thing I've seen is that the economic areas are very geographically set. You know, and it's, I wouldn't say it's problematic, but you mentioned downtown's density. You know, we can't even really go down College Highway because you've got, I guess if you want to call them the landmarks, we've got our old town hall / fire station / police station. You've got the church. You've got Country Colonial, which is like, that's one of the few things that people, when they not from the area, they're like, oh yeah, that's where that old place is. And so where do you go other than that corridor? That's pretty much what I was talking about when I got on, or right before, is I do envision that as our economic retail corridor, but, you know, we almost kind of need to stretch a little bit, but we really don't have anywhere to do it.
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, the zoning was set back in the 1950s, and there have been some adjustments. There's been some overlay zones put in, and I mean, one area that's very dense is around the lakes and the Congamon Lakes, and how, you know, are we going to use those, or will we change things at all? There's a challenge down there. So many of the roads, the infrastructure is very old, and
some of which are not.
They're
paper roads.
They won't meet the new standards for
not
streets.
Even actually town road. I get
So
a lot of questions.
we can't get Chapter 91, the state funding money to work on those roads. So we do use some of the community development block grants to get money to improve the drainage and you know, the surface of the road. So we need to look at some way to how to address those areas around the lakes.
Yeah,
how
we're
much
recreational community, so we got to utilize the recreation that we have.
Oh, yeah.
But you're kind of limited on that too. It's tough with the one boat ramp on one side, one boat ramp the other, and a lot of people have asked me, well, how do I get there and what do I do? But it's interesting. That's
another one that's come up is parking for the rail trail.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that.
We've had some feedback there. Public parking is very limited. It's mainly down Miller Road, Congamon Road area there is the official parking area. And as you go north, there really isn't anything available in the way of parking. So I'm sure that's going to come up in that chapter.
Well, with the new projected,
Sam West
and
of
Hudson.
Hudson.
I mean, I've talked to Randy Brown. He said that's kind of like, we're looking at 5 to 10 years before that happens. You know, you could easily put a nice lot down there.
There's
Kind of
space
like
there.
what Westfield did with off a Shaker hidden behind the golf course. A lot of people don't realize that's there.
For parking area?
For parking for the
I
rail
see.
trail.
Yeah.
And
Well, the other one they're looking at too is where the Rail Trail Ale House is, right?
Yes, yep.
Putting a ramp
Yeah.
down from there, and actually a good part of their parking lot is actually town land.
Yes.
So that you can actually park once that ramp is developed there. It's another access.
Yep.
People can park there as well.
Yeah.
So I
Definitely
think
be a
there's
benefit.
opportunities to put parking on the rail trail.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about the rail trail that keeps coming up is access to downtown, right? How do we get from
Connection from the trail
the rail
to-
trail to downtown, and how do we plan to do that?
It's funny, I've thought about that when that came up, and, you know, it's like, can we approach Tennessee Gas Pipeline and come right off there? I don't know. You know, you've got spots there, you know, some of the other spots that people have talked about are off of, behind, what's the, Captain Fowler, there's,
Oh.
you know, come in behind Grist Mill, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would benefit a lot. You look at East Hampton, we're a little bit different, Northampton, and even Westfield now. They've added all the offshoots that
Yeah.
dump into those primary areas. It'd be nice to see a little bit more activity downtown.
Well, when you're talking about economic development, right? How many people are going up and down that rail trail on a daily basis, particularly on a beautiful day like today, right? If you had an opportunity to just shoot into town without having to deal with the congestion of either Feeding Hills Road or Depot Street, right? To go into the summer house or pick another place down there and have a meal, have an ice cream or what have you, it would drive some additional business to the downtown area. But right now, if you're riding that bike trail, it's just difficult. And I know like the Friends of the Rail Trail have been putting up signs, kind of here's where you are, here are the businesses around you that you can use and what they are. But again, it's getting to them that's problematic.
One thing I may want to mention before we go too far or end this show is this little guy here. How can I show it?
Over your
This
head.
way.
There we go.
Ah,
I can't use the other arm.
okay.
Right?
So Jog and Charlie McWilliams. Dave, do you know this fellow?
He lives in my, he used to live in my house.
He
He's
used to
not
live
there
in your
anymore.
house. Okay. So Charlie designed Jog, and it's been a great little logo mascot for the master plan. And on top here, we're seeing Southwick2040.com. That's the website where people can go to get information. And also you can go to southwickma.org, which is the town website.
We're
And,
actually .gov now.
.gov now, okay. And we have a page, a separate page on the town website for the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So there's a lot of information on there as to some of the results from our survey and other activities that we've been holding. So those are two good places to go to follow on, and we've had, I guess, good interaction. Do we have a Facebook page too?
We do have a Facebook page, yes. You can find us on Facebook as Southwick 2040.
Okay. So we try to get as much out to the people, information, and get the feedback. Now we're into the writing process. The last meeting, we did have a work session, and in the meeting coming up, July 6th is our next meeting. We hold all the meetings in the town hall, usually the auditorium, but not always, sometimes up in the land use room. But anybody's invited to come and watch. Plus, we do it in a hybrid manner. Thank you, COVID, for hybrid. No. Anyway, folks can, at their leisure, watch it after it's been recorded and it's posted, but they can also join in through the hybrid process. And we do have a public comment and dialogue chapter or section of the hearing or the meeting, because I like to be able to interact with folks if they do want to ask a question, and we can answer it, then we can answer it. So I added, besides public comment, we also have dialogue. So right there, real time, we can maybe answer people's questions if they're wondering about the process or what's coming out of the, plan, things that we've gotten information on.
I think it's, I don't know how much time we have left, but I think next steps, right? I think that's important. We've talked about writing the chapters, but that's not the end of it, right? There's the writing the chapters, there's going to the planning board and presenting to the planning board and getting the buy-in from the planning board. But just because we come up with a master plan, it doesn't end there, right? The next important step is developing an implementation committee, because having a plan is one thing, implementing is as important, right? So just coming up with it doesn't end the process. So there's going to be opportunities, and I don't know what the plans are for an implementation committee, but there will be one, correct?
Oh, yes. And right now, the Master Plan Advisory Committee, it's a joint appointment by the Planning Board and the Select Board. So the Implementation Committee could follow that procedure also. It'll be a smaller committee, and we want to have
17 people?
Continuous feedback. We want to, a continuous feedback process, so I could see annual reports on what progress we're making on each of the sections of the plan. I think we need to have feedback from the public, are they pleased or comfortable with what actions we're taking? Because in each chapter, we have some fairly specific actions that are spelled out. They're not super specific, but they're more, these are the things, these are the areas we want to move forward in. And so we want to check and say, are we making progress? And if we're falling down in some areas, how do we shore that up? How do we do
2 minutes.
better?
All righty, so
Yep.
last couple of things I wanted to go over on my end. We're getting ready to start filling vacancies and the committees and boards. There's a chairman of a conservation commission right here. I believe you have at least one comment.
We have an opening right now.
Yep. At our last meeting, not our last meeting, it was the way before. Chairman Moglin has put together a online page. You can actually go right to the select board page now, and you can put in that you're interested, and you can list 1 through 3 what you'd be interested in, if you'd be interested in one board over the other, or only one board, or however you want to do that. That's one of the big things, we need more people that want to come out and be involved in shaping the town. So that's one of the big things. I'm trying to think.
Can
Was
I
there
just,
anything else?
I just want to chime in, because I'm on a few committees, right? And I think
How many committees are you on, Dave?
A couple.
Just 3? No.
But it's great to say you want to be on a committee, but if you're going to put your name down, be on a committee because you want to get involved. Showing up at a meeting doesn't necessarily mean you're involved, right? A lot of what happens on these committees happens outside of the meeting. So if you're going to commit.
I can't do that.
Right. But if you're going to commit, because there's a lot of things going on in town.
Yes.
And the more people that can jump in and help out, it just makes life a lot easier for everybody, and it gets more input. So the more people that give input, obviously the better it reflects the community. So please, we can all, any of these committees can use the help. Put your name in there, get on a committee, and be ready to participate.
Awesome. Last thing is, we're going to get ready, myself, Select Board Member Gail, our new clerk. I'm now the vice chair, and Mr. Moglin is now the chairman. We're getting ready probably to start asking what roads and what the people in town want to see fixed for next year. So folks, feel free to reach out to me either on Facebook or at jperone@southwickma.gov. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me if you don't like to do Facebook or anything like that. Additionally, I don't know why I'm doing it, but 413-454-3269. That is, you can direct text me. I am horrible with answering the phone, so please text. It also just say who you are and what you're texting me for. And those are the big things. Peter, I want to thank you. Like I said, it's been interesting. It's been awesome because I didn't really have to talk much for half an hour.
There you
We
go.
got some good talkers here.
Yeah, and you know, so I want to thank everybody for coming. If anybody has any questions, you know, reach out to Marcus, Mr. McWilliams, and Marissa on their Facebook or their separate page from the town. And again,
Come to a meeting.
yes, come to a meeting, come to a bunch of meetings. A lot of people complain, you know, and that's why I stepped up a couple of years ago. A lot of people want to say stuff, but then it's after the fact. So, and they never do anything about it. So it's, you can't complain and expect things to happen if you don't get involved. So that's about it, Pete. You know,
All right, sounds good. That's a
you
wrap.
give us our,
Thank you.
we're at our time anyway, so.
Play
thank
us
you, Pete.
out, right? You're gonna
Yep,
play us
we can
out.
do
Play us
the
out.
fade out to black.